Well, the ANC has also condemned the statement by FW de Klerk's foundation denying that apartheid is a crime against humanity. The party says the denial flies in the face of commitments to reconciliation and nation building. The former president has subsequently apologized. Let's discuss this further. We're joined by ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe. Pule, good evening and thank you so much for your time. It seems to be another issue yet again that has been almost brought to the national conversation and discussion by the EFF, that the ANC finds itself on the back foot of and almost having to respond mostly to a lot of things that were said at the State of the Nation address, and the extent to which there was a perception that the ANC government was defending FW de Klerk during that sitting.
Well, thanks, Oskethy. First, just to maybe greet your viewers at home and clarify the notion that we are on a back foot. We have never been on a back foot, especially on this issue. The ANC had spoken at first, even when there was that interview. Subsequently, we issued a statement, even when we were commemorating the 30th anniversary since the release of President Mandela. We did reflect on the fact that Mr. F.W. de Klerk did not release President Mandela out of the kindness of his heart. He did so because there was pressure mounting through the Harare Declaration, which sought to suggest that if there is no democratized South Africa, there will be sustained sanctions, which will make it difficult to drive the development of the Republic of South Africa. So we have spoken about this. Unfortunately, Oskethy, they would not have received the kind of prominence and dominance that an issue would receive when it is raised at an occasion such as the State of the Nation's address. An organization like the African National Congress, which has bestowed on itself the role of leading society, understand the space that is granted or provided for by the State of the Nation's address. That platform seeks to give the nation a full, detailed brief by the state president on the things that are going to be implemented in the year ahead. For instance, there are challenges of load shedding, there are problems of poverty and all of that. Now, the people of South Africa wanted on that occasion to hear the president saying, what are we going to be doing to deal with SOEs? What are the measures that we're going to implement to address the problems at ESCOM, deal with the contracting economy, make sure that the young graduates who are graduating year in, year out have got a bit of hope?
The EFF says going into that particular SONA address, they hadn't necessarily intended on standing up on a point of order where it concerns the de Klerk matter, but once they saw him, they felt that it was the most appropriate thing to do. So with the benefit of hindsight, and when you look at how the decision-making process on the night went to deal with what the EFF was raising, do you think that the former president should be allowed to attend a future State of the Nation addresses?
Well, Oskethy, just to go back, that decisions during a State of the Nation's address are not made on an impromptu basis, especially decisions to eject persons that are in the house in a country like ours that subject itself to the rule of law and all of that. Granted, the point raised is valid. There is no one who can come out today and deny that apartheid was a crime against humanity, when the United Nations had said so in 1973 and ensured that this comes into force in 1976, when there's been such mounting pressure by the international community. So it can't be that someone who presided over the state would say so. But of course, I mean, with age, you know, when there's age, people are old, there's memory lapse, there's quite a number of things that happens there. So you would expect that. So of course, I mean...
Are you creating a caveat for the former president to almost excuse part of this behavior? Or
No, we are not.
Create an excuse for it, why it came about?
No, we are not. Not at all. Not at all. Actually, the statement that the ANC came out clearly today, that it is important that he comes out and retract and gives an unconditional apology for that statement. We have since noted that he has acted in the affirmation. He has done so, because we were not expecting that someone would have presided over the Republic of South Africa now in 2020 would not have known that apartheid was a crime against humanity.
Of course, some are reading that statement as being quite disingenuous, because it's almost impossible for somebody to change their views in just over a week, because the former president subsequently held another interview with one of my colleagues, Nomsama Seko of the BBC, and repeated similar statements in that particular interview. So now that the views of the former president have been exposed to the full extent that he has held them, I ask again, should he be allowed to attend future State of the Nation addresses? What's the view of the ANC on this one?
Well, as you know, it is not the ANC that invites people to the State of the Nation
Sure,
address.
but I'm asking you, what is the view
Yes.
that you hold on the matter? It's a public conversation.
Correct.
So I'm asking you to weigh in on the conversation.
Yes, I'm weighing in on the
Sure,
in on the conversation that we have noted the unconditional apology made by Mr. F.W. de Klerk and his foundation. It is important that the National Assembly assesses all of the facts before it, but also the National Assembly must go further to pick up a conversation, especially with some of these people who are former heads of states, to remind them of the responsibility that they carry to the nation out there. They are expected to become custodians of the social compact, one which is about nation building, which is about renewing our own society, which is about making sure that we drive a reconciliation program in a manner that we recognize the role played by blacks and white people in constructing a South Africa that we can call home. Not to perpetuate racial stereotypes, not to undermine that very compact that President Mandela brought about. I mean, it was not an easy thing for President Mandela to agree that he is going to accept the Nobel Peace Prize with his former oppressor in the form of Mr. F.W. de Klerk. It was also not an easy thing to put up a government of national unity and still have him serving as the second deputy president. It was not an easy thing.
With all due respect, all of those points are noted, but you have still not answered my question. What is the view of the ANC? Should former President F.W. de Klerk be allowed to attend future State of the Nation addresses? It's a simple yes or no, but you can, of course, give more context to your answer.
No, Kathy, you must invite robotics if you are looking for yes or no. We run an organization, and in our own organization, things are guided by context. Mr. de Klerk, through his foundation, they've issued an apology out to the public. It is now, the matter is now left to the National Assembly to be able to then say, what do we do should this conduct continue to persist? So if there is a clear line of undermining the morale of the people of South Africa, clearly the National Assembly must act in the interest of the people, which is to make sure that individuals like those, whether it's Mr. de Klerk or anyone else who denies that apartheid was a crime against humanity, such a person cannot be allowed to participate or be part of a sitting such as the National Assembly, which is born out of a democratic process, which was built out of the blood and sweat of a majority of our people in this country.
Do you accept the apology from the foundation tonight that was issued?
The apology is noted. It's not for us to accept it, it's for us to note it. Like you are saying, I mean, we are part of the public out there. We have noted the apology. And we are saying all of those denialists must now hit the call and accept that apartheid has done more damage than they could imagine.
What do you
People
think
have lost their lives, families were broken, and all of that. Our whole structure of development out in communities was destroyed by the nonsensical apartheid machinery. So there is in no way that we can continue to tolerate individuals who still deny that apartheid was a crime against humanity. It's actually a big shocker.
What does this do for the project of reconciliation in South Africa? And I think for the Rainbow Nation project, as it were, which we know has faced its own challenges.
Which is the point that I made, that it is important for the National Assembly, where these invitations are issued, that the conversation is picked up with those that they might want to invite, especially those that would have occupied prominent positions, such as having been heads of states, to remind them that in their own public articulations, they should not reverse the gains of our own democratic order.
Is engaging with F.W. de Klerk, whether through different social engagements that might be put in place, or even having this discussion, does it present a bit of a difficulty for the ANC, especially when you take a look at that moment in time, in history, and the negotiated settlement, as it were? Are you finding that you have to tread carefully when you talk about this issue?
Well, we have expressed ourselves. I'm not sure, but we have expressed ourselves on the matter. We have effectively stressed on our disappointment, especially on the fact that Mr. F.W. de Klerk and this foundation would have previously come out as saying they were not aware that there was a declaration of apartheid being a crime against humanity. They have since come out to convey their own apology, which we have accordingly noted. We expect the National Assembly, because tomorrow members of the National Assembly will begin with a debate on post-SONA debate. We expect that even in those debates, they must begin to also focus the nation on the project of nation building and the role or tasks that all of us as South Africans are expected to fulfill as part of that nation building project.
How do you think, and I know I'm speaking hypothetical scenarios here, but should the vote have gone ahead in the National Assembly last week, as suggested by the IFP leader, on whether or not F.W. de Klerk must stay or go in Parliament, what do you think the vote from the ANC would have been? Is there consensus in the party around this?
Well, I can tell you now, State of the Nation's address are not for voting, so we should just be careful not to even create an impression to the people out there. There are a lot of young people who are watching Newsroom today whose wish is to become parliamentarians. We need to give them the right education. We must never send a message out there that impossible things can be possible.
All right.
SONA is not for voting. There are days for voting. SONA is a joint sitting called by the President of the Republic to present a State of the Nation's address. Now, we are being swayed away from the message of hope that President Ramaphosa was delivering out to the public. Instead of saying...
Do you think the matter should ever be put to vote in the National Assembly?
Well, issues that had to be voted for in the National Assembly and all of that, it's matters that have to be considered by presiding officers. I can tell you now, Mr. de Klerk Urquile, de Klerk has heard us loud and clear. South Africans are not going to tolerate racial stereotypes. It took men and women of courage, of fortitude, to build this country to where it is today. We are not going to be tolerant of people who still want to run racism, when it took us so many years to build this country to where it is today. So we are saying to apartheid apologists and denialists that not again. We are not going to be coming and tolerating people who are saying that. If anyone wants to perpetuate this kind of stereotypes, then they are not worth being called in their former positions. They must be stripped of their powers. They must be denied of their privileges. Because those privileges come with honor and they come with a measure of responsibility as well.
Pule Mabe, we're going to leave it there for tonight. He speaks on behalf of the ANC.